in Bihar, and I'm ready to go. And they showed me the school, and they asked me to sit on this bench. And the whole group of people crowd around me, and it's kind of cute. You know, you like attention. It's not a bad thing all the time. And one guy came up to me and started fanning me, and he was the teacher. He had a salary of $2.50 a month. $2.50 a month. Tony Till, how about that? $2.50, my brother. And so I said, man, can I give you some money? I had to ask them. I said, I would like to donate, not much, like $50 or something to the school, but for them, that's a phenomenal amount of money. You know, they gave me a receipt. They said and wrote the receipt. I still have it. See, I wasn't used to anything like that. And then they asked me to take tea with them. Now, I have described the community. And my inclination was to say, you know, I'm really not thirsty. It's hot, and it's much too warm a day to be drinking tea. But brothers and sisters, these people have been told for the last 3,000 years that they are filth. And my attitude was, no matter what, I'm not going to reinforce that. I saw myself as a visiting ambassador who represented all of you. And I was going to represent you well. And I'm fairly confident that for most of the trip, you'd be very proud of the brother. I acquitted myself very well. So I said, all right, I'll have a cup. And they handed me the cup, and I didn't really want to look at it. And my attitude was the water was boiled, so I guess it's okay. And I drank it, and they kept fanning me, and everybody's grinning at me and taking pictures. And so I finished it and gave it back to him. So how about another cup? I said, okay, give me one. And I think I might have drank one more. So finally get out of there, and we walk to the edge of this slum area, and all these people are gathered around the Jeep. Now, I don't know what they're saying, but they're talking in a very animated fashion, so I just get in the Jeep. And I was washing my hands with this hand sanitizer, to tell you the truth. I didn't want anybody to see me. So finally, after about 10 minutes, everybody crowded in, and then we were riding like about 8 or 9 deep. And I said, what were they saying? He said, they're talking about you. I said, what were they saying? He said, man, they were trying to figure out who you are. And I said, well, how did they act? He said, literally, they were astonished. That's the word they used. And I said, what did you tell them? I said, you were from America. I said, did they understand that? Not many of them. That most people don't even have a concept of what America is. India is composed largely of 800,000 villages. That's where the masses of people live. Almost 950 million people. And probably that 950, probably 700 million live in villages. And some of them are very far removed. So I told him I wanted to go in villages, and he took me into plenty of them. And he said I was a Habshi. He said they would never understand African American. But Habshi, they understand. Habshi is a term for black people who were captured in Africa, enslaved, converted to Islam, and won their freedom and rose to very high positions. So Habshis are like dignitaries. So I was a Habshi. Then he took me to another area, and this is dominated by the lowest of the untouchables. See, there are even different categories of untouchables. These people were forced to attach a broom to their back to erase any evidence of their presence. In much of India today, Dalit women or untouchable women cannot clothe themselves from the waist up. It's not uncommon to take a Dalit woman. There was a case where the sister in the north, the same state where they detonated the nuclear devices, sister's sons stole some vegetables. They're hungry. You should see some of these people, so malnourished. So they stole some vegetables. And so this lady was accosted, stripped, and beaten, paraded naked through the village at noon, and then made to have sex with her 2 sons in front of everybody. This is how our people are treated there. The first people, the descendants of the first people, the people who built civilization over there, this is how they're dealt with. So the next group is an area of people called the Dome, D-O-M. And these were dark-skinned people with reddish hair. And every now and then you find somebody with blonde hair. I'd never seen anything like that except Australia, where I plan to go in November. And they were happy to see me too, and I was a strange sight. Now this area was even worse than the group prior. The first group is called the Metar, and I don't expect you to remember all these names, but I'll tell you anyway. And then you have the Dome, and I gave them a little money too. And then finally I was taken to another area which was even worse than the first 2. And finally I said, man, I had enough. I walked past this one sister. She was sitting in a pile of garbage. sitting in it. And just a cloud of flies all over her. And she's picking through the garbage, looking for anything she could eat or use. And this is day-to-day reality. When you would leave these areas, you left with a sense of relief, but also with kind of a sense of guilt. Like it was like you were leaving prison, but they didn't have a key to unlock the door. No schools, no sanitation. They had these latrines that were just backed up with feces for months. You can only imagine what it's like when it really gets hot or when it rains, because there's no drainage system, there's no electricity, there's no lights, and these other two areas didn't have a school. So they walked me through this area, and then that was it for that day. I had 2 interviews with 2 big-time newspapers, and I was just furious. And I was saying things like, how could the government allow this to happen? And they said, well, we're doing what we can. We're making great progress. And I would be just furious. And you can't eat, or it's hard to eat after that. And really, brothers and sisters, you question your faith in God. There were times when I felt like I was just in a nightmare and I couldn't wake up. You want to cry, but tears wouldn't come. So that was that. The next day it got worse. And we went to a village in a district called the Jahanabad district. And once again, a bunch of us piled together. And they just like us. We say we're going to leave at 8, and we leave about 11. And we drive all day. And then every few minutes, somebody has to stop and use the bathroom. So that was the way that trip was. And we go to this place called Jahanabad. Now, in December, 65 men, women, and children were murdered in Jahanabad. Late at night, about midnight, a private army of 300 gunmen came into this village and just shot anything and everything. I think they killed 26 children under the age of 10, 1 a 2-year-old, 1 6 months old, 1 person 80 years old. They shot everything, mostly women and children. Now, the idea behind these things is to keep the dollars terrorized, keep them in a perpetual state of fear. Go in and rape all the women, shoot the men. So that, and then if you protest, who are you going to protest to? Because all the government officials, the head of the army, the head of the police, all the priests, the head of the universities, are all of the upper caste, and those are the ones who are ordering the killings. So they took me to this district, not to that specific village, but one very close to it, and these people were messed up. They were just like the Dome, except they lived in the country. The Dome are known as scavengers. They clean latrines with their hands. And I'm not talking about with gloves, with their hands. That's their job, they're scavengers. They take the filth and they put it in a bucket, and then you put the bucket on top of your head, and then you walk to the outskirts of the village and you dump it. And you can see the excrement streaming down the back. I mean, this is horrible. I called a group of them together to see if I could take a picture of them. And they ran. I pulled out my camera, they thought it was a gun. They thought I was going to shoot them. And it's almost funny, but it's tragic. I talked to one sister, she had glaucoma. And last year, she had 9 of her sons who were murdered by upper caste Hindus. And then one lady had 2 of her sons murdered. And naturally, what did I do? The American thing, can I give you some money? I had asked them. And they took it, and I finally got my pictures, and they walked me around. It was just pathetic. So we go back to Patna, and spend one more evening with Rashidi. And we go to a restaurant, in this little hotel, and we both had, I think, a couple of beers, and we were all sitting around eating in this restaurant. And Rashidi is very funny. He has quite a sense of humor. He's 63 years old, and I love to be around him. I think if there is such a thing as reincarnation, in a past life he must have been a king, because he just has a very regal bearing. And he likes me. Right? So we were sitting there talking and eating our food, and all at once a rat ran right down through the middle of the restaurant. And Rashidi says, Runoko, did you see that rat? I said, no, where is it? And it's over there. And I said, man, if you see it again, let me know. So sure enough, a few minutes later, the rat came out again. And the rat wasn't moving, the rat was just chilling. He wasn't moving fast, he wasn't worried. And you got that impression the rat was very secure. Because everybody was laughing. And so Rashidi says, I will not have this. You have rats here. You will not have me tomorrow. Oh, I was in stitches because nobody else seemed to even take notice of the rats. So the next day I checked out of the hotel. Somebody insisted that I stay in his house. A Muslim doctor named Dr. M. Ijaz Ali treated me like a prince. Never took a cent.